and welcome to Mixology, where we launch each episode mixing up a beverage as we discuss how customer education and customer marketing mix together as scale engines to customer success. I'm Kristine Kukich, and along with Shannon Howard, we're talking about communities this time. I am a firm believer that communities are peer to peer learning, and we have one of the best practitioners of community with us today, Mary Green. So let's talk about communities with a firecracker. The ingredients are 1 inch cubes of watermelon frozen to act as ice cubes, 1 ounce of watermelon juice or muddled watermelon, 1.5 ounces of rum, half an ounce of simple syrup, half an ounce of lime juice, and a small 1/6 of a teaspoon of cayenne pepper. Then cube the watermelon and freeze it. As I said, that's going to be your ice cube. Fill a shaker with real ice cubes, the watermelon juice, the rum, simple syrup, lime juice, and cayenne. Shake it up. Place the watermelon ice cubes in a coupe or martini glass. Then strain and pour the mixture over the iced watermelon. So good. So very, very good. The cayenne makes it pop. Grab your drink, sit back, relax, and listen in on the conversation with Mary. Hey everyone, welcome. We are here today, a firecracker recipe earlier on. So if you haven't already made it, pause now, go make your firecracker and then come back. And we are talking community today. So I wanted to introduce you to Mary Green and let her introduce herself. Both Shannon and I think she is the most absolute perfect person to talk about community because she runs them, she builds them, and she is really good at it. She's also looking for work. So if that's someone that you think you need, contact her. Mary, introduce yourself because we can't say enough nice things about you.
Oh, thank you guys. Thank you, ladies, so much. Um, Hi, I'm Mary. I build usually like tech-related communities, business to business. I've worked with HubSpot and Forbes and Demandbase, and now I run customer marketing alliance or no, CMA Weekly. Goodness, wow. And that's for customer marketers, advocacy, community people, all of those things.
One of our favorite resources. Shannon and I both hang out there on a pretty regular basis. So,
Basically every
so
day.
the
CMA.
right, yeah, CMA Weekly. We norm format for us is 3 questions, right? So the first question, Mary, is how do you define community, including how do you set up the right purpose and or objectives for a community program?
Yeah, so when you're thinking about building a community, and like I said, I work with a lot of tech companies, so my communities have been professional communities. But when you're thinking about building a community, it should be really about what's the goal of that community. I like to think of community as a group of people that come together to spend more time learning and connecting around the hobbies and topics that they're interested in. And when you add a goal or basically a mission to that on top of just, wherever you're meeting, you kind of have something to work towards. So becoming an expert in that topic or, like dog training, being able to successfully get your dog to do what you want them to do and behave and not jump on people. With the business to business communities, it's usually around helping professionals grow in their careers, professional development, learning new certificates, really being able to just find the right goals and be successful doing that. So I like to have a mission or a purpose in mind, and you come up with that by talking to the people that you plan to have in your community. So asking around, like, what is missing in this topic? What should we all be working towards? For CMA Weekly, the big topic at first was we shouldn't have to work alone. Let's not work alone. And just bringing us all together so that when you have a question, you have somebody to go to and ask. from there, from the mission side, the objectives, usually I like to go back to what's important to the people that will be in the community. So that side of stakeholders and the company itself, because I believe that a company that is hosting a community should see value from that community. And I don't think it's a one-way street where, companies are just, oh, they got to give back because they've been so successful. I think as leadership and management would change over time, it would just be wiped out. So there has to be value from that community and really asking, what are our company goals this year? What kind of goals do we have that community could speak to? For B2B SaaS, adoption, retention, education, all of those things really contribute to the value that a community has and helps the company grow. If you're thinking about objectives like with training your dogs, then you're the company, you're going to think about, what what goals do we have this year as far as growing more or getting more people to want to train their dogs, and just thinking about what your goals are for the main company and then for the users themselves. What do they want to learn this year? What are they interested in doing? For instance, in CMA Weekly, we have a lot of events, and that tends to be really popular. If I decided, no, we're never doing events, we're just going to stay and chat, we would have still a good community, but it wouldn't bring people together in the same way. So, one, I know that we have to have the events. So you want to know like what people expect being in your community and what are those types of media or the way they're going to get those content that that you can incorporate into your plan, going back to, those challenges, or not the challenges, but what you were first saying about defining the community.
I've been talking a lot lately, and I think Shannon, maybe been on a couple of the calls where I kind of have been putting community in in part of the foundational triangle or foundational pyramid of what we do post sale, where when we're talking about how people get together, how we get people together, and how we give them opportunities to learn about us, about our product, about our people, that community is right there in that triangle with things like knowledge base and education, right? And your academy or whatever you're doing for customer ed. And I think that that's true. I think that it helps create the right environment for people to do all of those things.
Right. Yeah. It brings people together and kind of gives them a place to start off. If they're not, when you have your education, that's something that you've worked on for a while. It's something that you've started to include in your onboarding and things like that. Your community is really good at finding all of those topics and all of those gaps and turning it into immediate content to be able to use in those gaps. And when you have a solid foundation for your community, you have you can start to do that very quickly, and you can start to plan out where to use that content all through your lifetimes, the customer lifetime. So it does a lot to help if you know how to use it well.
So, which then takes, go ahead, Shannon.
Oh, well, I was gonna say, I think you make a good point. Like one community can solve a lot of problems, right? Not just goals for a business, but can solve some problems for a business. But I also appreciate that you emphasize it's two ways, right? That it's not, I think if I see a problem, a challenge that companies tend to have when it comes to communities, it's that they're focused on their goal, and then they use community becomes a one-way communication channel where it's like just a
Yeah.
promotional avenue rather than a conversation. So when you said two-way street, keeping in mind that a successful community has to tie to business goals, right? Because your
Yeah.
business needs to see value in it. And it has to tie to the individual user's goals, because they don't have to be in your community. And, you know, especially if you're a SaaS company, you're one of like 20 tools that they use. Like, why would I be in this community compared to other communities? They have to see value from it too. So keeping that in mind, that it's a two-way street. So I like that you pointed that out.
Happy to help.
So next up, of course, is once you decide what it means and what you think it's going to look like, do you actually need software to make a community or not?
Am I going first?
Of course.
Sorry.
Yes, first.
Can you hear the dogs?
It's okay. Go ahead.
Okay. So do you need software for your community?
Shannon, why don't you go ahead and take a stab first at it, and then we'll let Mary come in.
All right. Well, I also have dogs over here. Mine just happens to be passed out. She had a friend over recently. Okay. Community, do we need a platform? I think it depends on your goals, right? Almost like any question that we ask, right? We talk about this too with customer marketing, you know, is it okay to start in a spreadsheet, or do you need a dedicated tool? And I think we all start in a spreadsheet. I don't think you can build community in a spreadsheet. So I think there are tools that will help you, but you might start more casually, right? So Mary was talking about in CMA Weekly, we have these events. You don't necessarily need to purchase a platform for an event like that. A lot of communities start on free Slack communities, and that can be a great way to start, right? So I think, and Kristine, you and I have talked about this before, of piloting something and trying it on a smaller scale and trying it for free and kind of hacking things together to show that there is something here, right? We're testing out a concept, we're building our MVP, we're seeing if it can help us to move the needle, and then we can progress from there. And then when it comes time to find your community platform, and I know Mary's done a ton of research on community platforms and what the benefits are for each one of them and what you should think about in your search. But then it comes down to, what do we ultimately need this community to do for us? Like, what is the goal of this community? And so I'll pass it back to Mary.
Hi. Okay. So does community require software? In general, I mean, from the outside, you can have a community at church and not have software. So community could be a town, it could be all of these things. So do you need software? No. If you're looking specifically at the SaaS world, yes, you do need software. Do I think you need a community platform that is, top of the line, Koros and vanilla and all of those things? Almost always, not really. Um, because one, I'm seeing that fewer people want to take the time to interact on your website where you want to install the community. Professionals just don't have time. They are so packed full of things to do. A lot of people have lost their jobs. That means a lot of others have picked up what those jobs were and added it to their job. So communities need to be easily accessible, you're able to find it very quickly, very easily. And it needs to provide value almost immediately. So one, when you're B2B, I think it's important to try to be on Slack, because most people are already there in some capacity. If not, there are other tools, there's Discord, there's Teams and things like that. You want to have a place where people already participate in a lot of ways. I don't recommend Facebook because their algorithm for showing up on these groups is just not enough. I really like the immediate chat ability that you get in Slack. And for an MVP, it's perfect. It's a great place to get started. And there's constantly new tools that'll help you be successful with using Slack. If you already have a community on your website, you can still drive people there. I mean, I'm asked all the time, what's your favorite big community platform? To me, they're very similar. It's a forum. They have the job of holding conversations, and that doesn't take a lot of uniqueness. It doesn't take a lot of creativity. It's really it's there, and you have to do the work of getting people to come in and post. And if you're asking me as a professional, would I rather have a Slack where I can just hop over to it when I'm already looking at messages, or go to your website and find the community and now log in and start looking around, you're going to see there's a big drop off there where people are actually going to be active. And I know that sounds bad for the community platforms, but on the other hand, there are times where you want that community to be very specific to your software, very specific to the topic. And, if you're not looking for a lot of people do this for the SEO, but a lot of companies are getting the SSO side of these products, which means it's not going to show up on SEO anyways. Um, then I wonder about needing that platform. And I'd also say, there are a lot of companies that have those platforms just to live up to the size of their company, the expectation of being an enterprise company, things like that. And those communities are usually, there's so many members, there's so many people that can participate, that you're going to have people participate. I mean, that where you have 100,000 customers, some will just show up and participate on your website. If you are getting started and you're a small startup, a SaaS company with 20 people, getting on Slack, you're going to be able to get people in there much more quickly. So then there's the idea of, do you need a community platform at all? Do you need Slack? No. I have seen a lot of community built around just events, just monthly events, weekly events, just getting people in Zoom and helping them connect, whether it's on LinkedIn or email. You don't It's not about the platform and the technology. It's really about your strategy for bringing these people together, and in the important areas of building those new habits, helping them see when it pertains to them so that they get immediate value, and really being relational enough and knowing enough about your topic and your resources to be very effective in a relationship with customers. Because as soon as you connect with them, now you need to connect them to the things that they need. And that's how you're starting to build that community, by building those networks and things like that. So I would say at least Zoom or something like that, but you don't necessarily need anything. I mean, you need a place to bring people together. If it's local, there's groups in Boston that are customer marketing people, and they just go. They'll message each other somewhere and they show up however often they do it.
Meet them where they are. That's
Yeah.
it. Meet them where they are.
Yes, yes.
And facilitate connection, which, Mary, I think is something that you do really well. And another thing that goes into, right, if we talk about starting a community, I mean, just because you have a community platform or you launch a community doesn't mean that people are going to go in there and engage, right? You have to
No.
actually, so sometimes I think starting without the platform, where you're building these relationships with people and you're connecting them, and I know that you do this really exceptionally well. Like the communities that have been in that you've started, you've facilitated connection between people where there is buy-in to post, there is buy-in to engage. People are finding value in the connections with each other. So it can start offline in that way of, you talk to one customer and they have a question. Oh, I think I could connect you with this other customer who's working on something similar. And that can be the start of community. So when you get to the
Yeah.
point of implementing a more formal program, you already have people who want to be involved.
Absolutely. Yeah, I should have said that. Like roundtables where you just invite customers to a topic and make it very clear we're going to have a discussion, one like people to people here. One, in B2B SaaS, you're going to find people want to talk to other customers. It's great to have a CSM, but it's not the same as having other customers that have 20 years of experience doing the same thing you're doing, and they want to share, they want to give back. And if you do those roundtables, it's a start to those communities. It's now you take that 1 hour roundtable, you know who wants to talk, who wants to learn more about different topics by who asks the questions, and what content and what topics are important to them. And so each week or month that you do this, it starts to compound, and you can easily do a monthly roundtable and then send out the LinkedIn links so that people can say, oh, this person talked about XYZ on the call, and you're facilitating that connection, and you're helping them get the resources that they need. Now you take that and share that with even more customers, and you will have more customers that want to come to the next event. It's it's very low risk. It's an hour, and how much time you have afterwards to take that and turn it into assets that you can use to bring more people together. But it's a great way to get started. And it's a great way to show your company that there's value in community without spending 18 months researching what to do, without spending $100,000 to buy Koros. Like, you can get started in a few weeks building a community for your customers, spending very little money.
Kristine came to one of my
Right.
roundtable conversations yesterday, and I got this idea from you where I just said, look, we just need to create a space for people to come together around a topic related to our industry. And the attendance has snowballed over time. It's picked up a lot of traction. It's such a low effort program. I don't do a ton of promotion around it the way I would for like a webinar.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to do much in terms of preparation, right? So I did a lot of kind of internal training and enablement around this, but with the idea of, okay, I've seen this in action. People just want to talk to other people who do their job. A lot of us, we're some of the only people in our organization who do what we do. And I think that's true for many of our customers too, that they,
It's
you know,
why Evans from scratch is so valuable too,
mhm. Yeah,
because
just
he's doing a complete uh just come with your questions and there will be people there who can answer them.
Who is that?
Evan Hall, he's in
Evan.
on the customer ed side, and he runs a monthly session called From Scratch, where people bring
Yeah.
in their questions, and there's enough people there that have been around to answer them.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And it does snowball, like you said, Shannon. Like, you will get more people to sign up. You're going to get a lot of data and really see what are important topics. Where does your company need to fill in gaps? Like, you might have the right content, but customers don't know where it is or how to find it quickly. That's a huge issue. Um, you might be able to, from there, when it does snowball, find customers that want to host these meetings, because then you can scale it. And there are a lot of customers, like when I've done my research into the programs that I have to see how many are educators, like advocacy, how many are um, collaborators, how many are validators, and the four types of advocacy. I found nearly 40 to 50% are advocates. And then you add in the status seekers, that's the fourth type, that they just want to show up and be everywhere. Then you're going to have like 60% of your advocates that want to help with this. And so you can help them run monthly topic groups, kind of like what's happening right now at CMA Weekly. Like, I'm just having people run monthly masterminds and seeing how it goes. And that's what people want to do. They want to connect with others just like them in the B2B space that they can build connections with over time. And it's really cheap to get started.
okay, so real quick, let's get our last one in before we have to close up shop today. uh who owns it? Shannon, you posted about this, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, somewhere where we were talking about who owns community, and that it can't be just me,
Oh,
right? You can't have just one person
well,
be it.
that was, I think I had said, you need one clearly defined owner of community because it require any successful initiative requires someone whose job it is to make it be successful and coordinate the people.
Mhm.
But community cannot be successful on one person's back. It has to be a cross-company initiative, right?
Right.
So I'm confident I can go anywhere and build relationships and then scale those relationships, but I know that I just don't know enough to answer every person's question, or so I need other people that I can tap and tag in. So that was my thing around, there needs to be one clear owner, but it needs to
Right.
be a cross-company initiative that it actually matters to all these different teams. You have buy-in for those people to participate. But Mary, maybe you can talk about, should one team own the community initiative, and which team should that be? Or does it depend?
Well, it always depends. It depends on what the goals of the whole organization are. It also depends with post sales, there's so much movement now between customer success and customer marketing and just like onboarding and adoption and expansion. So it feels like every team or every company has a different way that they're using their teams. Some companies, customer success definitely focuses on expansion. Other companies, it doesn't at all. It's just customer marketing. So it does depend. I like it under customer marketing because marketing is important to make it grow. A community cannot stay effective and active and just be valuable unless it constantly has new blood. It has to have new blood. And if your focus is to just focus on giving that customer experience to the top level, to your best ability, then you're not going to market enough. You're just going to focus on making it a great experience for customers. And there's not going to be enough value going back to the company. There's not going to be enough people that really want to push this all over the place to get it to education, to get it into support, to have all of those initiatives. We know customer success is almost always overtaxed, where in the right way, community can make customer marketing and advocacy almost easier because it gives you that database of people to tap into for all of those advocacy things that you need to fill, those asks. And so I would strongly say marketing, customer marketing, specifically. I haven't seen it as much as I'd like to. I tend to see it just in marketing, or I see some in customer success. The other team I like it on is customer education, because customer education it's a similar team in like department, in the fact that it's newer to a lot of organizations, and they understand like you have to do that cross collaboration. You have to like think through all of these things and be very creative about how you're delivering, and really focus on the customers in bulk, in mass, instead of just one-on-one. So if I had to pick another team, I would say customer education.
I completely agree. I don't know that I can add anything at all to that. I think it's absolutely spot on.
I'm
Right.
glad to help.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned marketing too. Just um, I think sometimes marketing gets a little bit of a bad rap in companies, but they can help us, right? The whole job is to build awareness and demand for things.
Really good at that.
That is the marketing gig. So partnering with your marketing team, making sure that that's part of, driving to your community, right? And we know this, driving to your programs, your community, your education
Hmm.
initiatives, whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we asked 3 questions today. We asked, how do you define your community? Does the community require software, and who should own it? And the answer to the first one was, what's your purpose? Why are you doing what you're doing? Because that drives everything else on both sides, right? Mary's point is true about that. It's not just what we want as an organization, but it's what our people want in terms of our customers as well, because it has to serve both communities, right? Air quotes. It has to serve both
Yep.
audiences in order to be successful, right?
Yeah.
Anything else,
I
Shannon?
call it my internal community I have to bring them together to support my external community, and I have to bring my external community together to support my internal community. And without that cross there with them each helping each other, it can't be successful.
And then, does it require software? The answer is maybe, right? Again, it depends. But mostly it's meet where they are.
Right,
If software is going to help you meet people where they are, then yes. If it doesn't help, then no. Right.
right.
And then who should own it? I think everybody was in agreement that it would be really nice if customer marketing was a thing and they owned it, and then through that it went to customer ed, maybe again because of scale, right? Shannon and I talk, of course, about this all the time with our Mixology
Mhm.
bit, but it's the idea that customer education and customer marketing are scale engines to customer
Mhm.
success. And I think that community is one of those tools that we can use, like in my pyramid, right?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so thank you, Mary. It has been a great
Thank you
pleasure
for
having
having
you,
me.
and I'm so glad you could join us today. Shannon, anything from
Me
you? Any
too.
follow-up, closing comment?
Man, I love community, but I just want to index on what Mary said around community is just getting people together. I think too often we think community and then instantly conflate it with forum, and it's not always that. So to be creative, and I think one of the things that Mary does really well that I think is part of why your communities have been successful is you start with these pilots and you test, you iterate. Like I know you're always like trying something new. Okay, does this work? Does this not work? And that's a lot
Right.
of it too, is I think sometimes we plan these like big programs that take a ton of effort, or we commit to a long-term thing instead of just testing something out. And I would encourage people to have that mindset of test, iterate, do pilots,
It
be
doesn't have to
creative.
be perfect out of the gate,
Oh yeah.
No.
Yeah.
right?
MVP all the way.
Right.
Yeah, but then you start to show the impact and the value. But you've started with that kind of low lift, low investment, test, and then you can show that, okay, if we invest more, we can expect more.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Perfect. All right,
Cool.
guys, then
Thanks,
thank you so
Mary.
much, everyone, and we will see you next time.
Bye.